Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is GeoGuessr Explained. I'm Zigzag, and welcome back to Mastering GeoGuessr. We are trying to go through every single country in the world on this series, and at the moment, we are at Argentina. Last episode, that was the most upvoted comment about what you guys wanted to see next, so do be sure to go down into the comments and suggest whichever country you want me to cover after this one. There's a whole bunch of really interesting and difficult countries to go, so no doubt there'll be plenty of suggestions. And yeah, Argentina itself, a very challenging country, a very fun country to get good at, although it is vast, and especially north-south is so large that you do struggle if you're not good at region guessing the country for sure. Yeah, but basically the format of this video and all the other ones in the series, which you can check out on this channel, is that I'll go through the Plonket guide here, which pretty much has all the best clues. I'll explain those, explain what I think is the most useful ones. Then I'll look at the topography and coverage a little bit, and then finally we'll do some gameplay. Yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so first things first, .ar for the domain, driving right-hand side of the road, as does the rest of South America. This might be a bit outdated. I feel like it's more 50-50 these days between Gen 3 and Gen 4. Gen 2 and 1 literally do not exist in Argentina, so that's good to know if you know your camera generations. As for the number plates, the black number plate, which is the old one, which you could kind of make out having a black dot because that's how the blur kind of showed it, is very common still. It is the old style of license plate, and it is shorter than the new one, which has the blue bar at the top. So look out for this license plate because you will still see it a lot, and I feel like if you're in a kind of tight situation, that is a good one to look for if you're confused about, if it's Uruguay, if it's, Peru, something like that. You will not see that license plate anywhere else. So just have a look for it. The other license plate is also seen in other countries, such as Brazil, with the blue bar on top, because it is the new style that the Latin American countries, many of them, are adopting. Okay, in Generation 3, Argentina exclusively had the black Google car. Either that or it just wouldn't show up, but you either had one of those two things. In Generation 4, there are numerous colors of the Google car, normally ranging between white and blue. Okay, over on the pole side of things, Argentina is a big fan of their concrete poles. These are what are called the like Italian style of pole. This is just like the one that comes from Italy, which you'll see a lot in Eastern Europe. In South America, though, as the guide notes, it's pretty much only Argentina, with the exception of occasionally Bolivia. I feel like also maybe like once or twice I've seen these in Uruguay, which is the country that looks most similar to Argentina. But if you see these, you should be very confident that you are in Arg, and just confirm with other things just to make sure. But yeah, the alternating style is super common. If they were all facing the same direction, that would be much more something you see in Peru, though. So that's really good to know. These ones, like the form an A, it's super Argentinian. You will occasionally see these in Europe, by the way. So, as I said, make sure with the landscape it makes sense. And so then we have the wooden poles. Wooden poles are pretty common in Argentina. Now, if you have the middle raised up, so the crossbar a bit lower with the insulator raised up on the middle, then that would be more of a Uruguay thing. But if you just see the flat crossbar like this, then that's much more of an Argentina thing. So pretty consistent meta, and definitely wooden pole shop quite a lot, which means you also have to watch out for USA bait as well, because they can look quite similar. And I would definitely say there are differences, but for example, I would say, I don't want to get into speculation about too much I don't understand, but there definitely are differences. You can investigate that yourself. Chevrons, most common one in Argentina, you see red on white. In Cordoba, the state of Cordoba, which is my favorite Argentinian state, you do sometimes see like blue on white and some other interesting variations of different infrastructure. I don't know why that is. Argentinians can tell me in the comments. Road lines. So double yellows is the kind of standard. Then you've got yellow with white, and then you've got plain white. So a lot of people just dismiss Argentina as a yellow road lines country. It's not the case. You're often on just dashed roads where you will only see white lines. Yeah, the main difference here is that with the double yellow lines, they would have white ones in the middle of them in Uruguay. So that is the big difference there that you have to watch out for. The only other country that would do it in the Uruguayan style is Philippines, but this style is obviously common all around the world. So obviously you're going to see white lines in Chile, but for Argentina, you'll see double yellows don't confuse it with Brazil. It can look similar, so just keep in mind that both are possible. Provincial road markers. The most important ones are the, I guess this is the provincial road marker. This is the national one, Ruta Nacional, I think it means. So look out for these ones. They're the most useful. And RN35, you can probably scan for that pretty easily. I'm not really sure what pattern they're in because I'm not really a moving kind of guy. Not really too good at my sign knowledge, but rest assured, they are useful, and I am recording. Two good things. Rectangular reflectors inside the guardrails is pretty good. You can see this around South America. Let's see what they say here. Yeah, Uruguayan guardrails do have a different shape as well. I'm not going to go into that. But yeah, you can see this in other South American countries. You can occasionally see it in Europe. I'm just trying to think of other countries where they do this. For example, Greece, I've seen it. But yeah, it's pretty unique the way they do these little tabs instead of like a bigger reflector. Okay, let's move on to the regional metas. So, big one here is taxis. Now, taxis, it's interesting that they put them first here because as for taxis, I would say if you want to be the best Arch player in the world, then learn these because they can be very useful in an urban circumstance. If you want to get to the top of moving jewels, if you want to be like the #1 moving jewel player in the world, then learn these. As for like NMPZ gameplay, they are moderately useful, but not majorly useful. So, if you can take the time to learn them, great. Otherwise, I would say, depends what your priorities are. But if you want to become a champion Arch player, they're good. If not, if you're just happy being good at Arch, then I would say you could probably skip them. As for me, I definitely know Buenos Aires, Rosario, and Cordoba, which are the 3 biggest cities. And specifically, Buenos Aires and Rosario have the 2 most similar ones. And maybe I can zoom in here to show you guys exactly what the meaning of that is. Okay, here we are. So you can see that they paint the kind of central beam that runs between the doors yellow in Buenos Aires, whereas Rosario has the same style, just without the yellow painted beam. So I guess Buenos Aires, being the bigger city, has more paint. I don't know. That's kind of the way I remember it. It's really not a great way, but it works. Okay. Excellent to remember that in the west of Argentina you have the Andes Mountains bordering Chile. So if you think you might be like in Argentina, worth checking for West Mountains. You might just see them, and that would be a great way to confirm, for example, that you're not in Chile. Because in Chile, you're barely ever going to see huge mountains west, especially not in a distinct ridge. Whereas in Argentina, obviously, it's super common in this red area. Now, we'll check out the topography later, but obviously, this is like a huge clue. And sometimes you're up in the mountains, and it looks very different. And sometimes the mountains create interesting climates or something like that. But yeah, for the most part, just remember that they're there. Red soil, I would say this map, you can definitely see it in other states as well, but primarily found in Misiones province, which looks a lot like Brazil. Obviously, here we have the dashed white road lines on the yellow line, which you would never see in Brazil, and you could see this in Uruguay, so that would be the 2 options, and Uruguay does have red soil sometimes, but to me, this is like very obvious Misiones province. Next one, we've got like the flat and sandy soil in Chaco and Formosa, and so out in these ones you'll also often see palm trees, which is pretty useful. The rest of the country, you wouldn't see palm trees nearly as often, I would say. So that's a pretty good one. Grassland with plantations, with, tree plantations. Okay, this is a good one. So grassland with separated tree plantations. You'll just see clumps of tree very commonly in Argentina and Uruguay. Not really sure, I guess they're just growing trees for timber and stuff, but it's definitely striking compared to other parts of the world because there are very few like naturally growing trees in these areas. So yeah, it's just massive amounts of grasslands around Buenos Aires province and that kind of vicinity. Small lakes, definitely Buenos Aires and kind of this area here near Uruguay. Pretty good meta, I would say. Not something I'm that familiar with, but yeah. Okay, roads with reddish pavement and long Argentine needlegrass are common in San Luis. I would say that's true. I would say red roads is very common in San Luis and La Pampa, these 2 states, and also in Santiago del Estero, SDE. So these 3 tend to have the most red roads, in my opinion, and it is a pretty useful meta. You can also see them quite a lot in Corrientes. And then I would just say in general they're more common inland with a reddish tinge to the road. You might not be able to see it, but if you play a lot of GeoGuessr, you'll eventually start noticing the difference between the kind of pavement quality, and often it will follow state lines very nicely, I would say. So actually kind of a nice one there. Flat and barren, everything starts to get quite a lot different as soon as you like pass La Pampa into these southern states. Near the mountains, things still get green and you have plenty of trees, but in Patagonia, obviously, the soil's dark, there are a few trees, the vegetation is low, and then you get this very barren landscape in the deep south, including Tierra del Fuego. Even more tree plantations happen in Entre Rios and Corrientes. Entre Rios is pretty sparsely covered, but you can just see so many of these. Beech trees. These are very thin, unique looking trees, which you see in Chile sometimes, also down in Tierra del Fuego. Now, Tierra del Fuego is interesting because it has a lot more trees than Chubut and Santa Cruz. These two, because they're in Patagonia, have a lot less, but the elevation changes and other factors mean that many more trees grow here than here. The only kind of trees you'll see in these two are mostly just poplar trees. That will be the only kind. Here are those palms I was talking about that you can see a lot in this area up here. This kind of tree is an interesting one. Kind of like a... They're kind of lower and smaller looking palms here. And these ones are really common in the Cordoba Mountains. And yeah, you will see these ones. They're less common than these ones, but pretty useful. Keep an eye out for them. I don't know how to tell the difference between these two palms, actually, but you can read the descriptions here. Just suffice to say, they're very far north, generally speaking. And yeah, that's the Macau palm, the Macaw palm, which is also known by GeoGuessr players as the Paraguay palm, also found in this area. So they're all slightly different, and I would recommend learning them, though I don't know them myself that well. Okay, we have lots of vegetation stuff. I don't know, I'm not a massive expert on this, so I'm only going to skim over it, but here's the Cardon cactus, which I've heard of. Definitely common up in that northwest part. Toothpick cactus. This is something I wasn't aware of, but that's the range, so good to know. Definitely you see them. Wildflowers in Salta, Jujuy, and Tucumán. Interesting. I would just be careful. Wild sunflowers, I see. Just be careful. There are lots of different types of flowers all around Argentina, even down to the very south. So just make sure they actually look like that. This tree is the Caldain, and it is commonly found in La Pampa. That definitely makes sense to me. I feel like because it is deciduous, you often see these in the winter in the old coverage, and they were pretty distinctively La Pampa, so that makes sense to me. Haven't read this guide in a while, apparently. Pampas grass, found in this area. Makes sense. A lot of this stuff, yeah, definitely associate that with like Buenos Aires area. Sugarcane, extremely useful. Tucumán province, with it occasionally in Salta and Jujuy. But yeah, Tucumán just grows the vast majority of it. Keep an eye out. Sorghum, yeah. Sorghum, I guess. Is commonly seen in Santa Fe. Good to know. Didn't know that. Cornfields, very common throughout the kind of central plains. Although, to be fair, it's right. It's not too common in Corrientes and Santa Fe. So, or what's this one? Corrientes and Entre Rios. So, pretty nice for dodging that. Definitely Buenos Aires and Cordoba, also known as Corndoba, is the kind of hotspot for it. Sunflowers lean a bit further south. You got to remember that sunflowers do like a bit of that cooler climate, I would say. Like, they're very commonly grown in Russia and Ukraine, places that receive quite a bit of snow in the winter. But, I don't know. Just remember, it leans a little bit further south than corn, basically. This style of pole is really common, I would say, in La Rioja. I definitely associate it less with Mendoza, but yeah, also Mendoza, I suppose. Single insulator like this is Mendoza pole. I always forget that one, but that is useful. White vertical sticker on the pole is one of the best methods for Tucumán, apart from sugarcane, and I think we can see sugarcane in the background there, so try and get those both, but it's a really small kind of plaque, so yeah. Oh, so this is the provincial road marker actually in Cordoba, so I was mistaken earlier. I guess this is just the Cordoba style, which, as I said, Cordoba does different infrastructure. Okay, T intersection signs like this in La Pampa with the road number are exclusive to there. Okay, red bricks, mostly common in Jujuy, which is, yeah, also something you see a lot in Bolivia. Obviously, that's the Bolivian border, so it makes sense. Mar del Plata, MDP, has a lot of American-style architecture, American-style houses, or definitely not quite typical for Argentina, so obviously just keep that in mind, and if you see a bunch of houses on a street like that, then could be the play. Pink trumpet tree, interesting. Did not know that was up there, but maybe it's actually as well. I'm not sure about that one. Salt pans up in the Max Northwest in the state of Jujuy, very nice province, I suppose. Red Mountains are on the RN60. Okay, we're getting pretty specific here, so I'll just pick if there's anything else I actually want to say. Oh yeah, vineyards, commonly near Mendoza. Also, I'd say San Luis has quite a lot as well. Semi-coastal grassy hills. We'll look at that in a sec. Monkey puzzle trees. You just look for Temuco in Chile, and just over the other side of the border, you get the monkey puzzle trees, which look like Paraná pines, if you're familiar with those. Maybe we actually got a lock here. But they are called monkey puzzles for a reason. You know, it looks fun for a monkey to swing on these branches. They're part of the same pine genus as the Bunya pine and the Paraná pine and this kind of stuff. Sunset car. Okay, we can probably leave that alone. Or the car with sawdust on it, that's what it's called, is very commonly found in Rio Negro province. So that, whenever you see it, probably just click there. Okay. Yeah, everything else is a bit too specific. Yeah, snowy mountains. If you have snowy mountains that are north of you, that would only be in Ushuaia, which is the southern city on Tierra del Fuego. Okay. So that was everything inside the Archguide. Not the longest guide, to be fair. So let us take a quick look at topography stuff here. So let's turn off the red lines first and look at terrain. So we have the Western Mountains. That's clear. We can see the Chile border here. Everything is clearly pretty huge. Even down to here, you have big mountains on the border, despite the fact they look a little smaller. But yeah, the highest mountains are the other side of Santiago, so around Mendoza, and these ones are the ones you'll often see snowing, but you can see it elsewhere as well. Then the mountains kind of north of Mendoza, they kind of stay quite confined to the border in Mendoza, but north of Mendoza, they'd have to start to spill out a lot, so you often find yourself between these ridges. For example, here, you'd be able to see the ridges both sides of you, and that often means these are very 5Kable, and it often means that you have to put quite a lot of effort into lining up the road and lining up the mountains mentally in order to get the right area, so it can be a challenge for sure. And likewise up here, you kind of have a lot of hilly landscape with a lot of valleys north, and it is very difficult to get a good sense for how things should look inside the mountains. But for example, Jujuy has quite a lot of coverage and is very distinct. As we said, kind of looks a little bit like Bolivia, salt pans. We don't see them right here, but you get the feeling that it could be the kind of place with salt pans. I think that's some there. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely like dry and hot, and you just kind of have to learn why it's hot and not kind of cold looking, you know? Yeah, so that's topography for there. Cordoba Mountains. So if you see mountains east of you, like if we were on this road here, and we looked east and saw mountains like this, then immediately in my head I'm thinking Cordoba, with the slight chance of these mountains here, which are in San Luis. And as we said in San Luis, slight red tinge to the road. This isn't maybe the most typical San Luis road, but you can see it does look a bit pinky in compared to something like here. This would just be a normal road, I assume. There is a slight pinkness to this one, but definitely the San Luis one was more pink, so take it as you will. Yeah, so the Cordoba ones, they taper off up here, and this is where you often see that species of smaller palm that we were talking about. So that is, like, if I saw these guys, I'm going to click, like, North Mendoza, North Cordoba, where the mountains get smaller. SDE is pretty flat. Chaco, Formosa are pretty flat. Santa Fe, I know people talk about, like, a few small hills over here or something like that, like, as in, like, if you see a bit of, like, rollingness to the landscape, then you might click near Santa Fe. I've heard of that. Wait, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Rosario it was. I don't know. There's very minor hilliness here. It's pretty much flat. You can see, yeah, you can see there's a slight elevation change here with nothing too crazy. Kind of similar to what you get in Uruguay. Corrientes flat, and Misiones is quite hilly in a Brazilian kind of way, where Brazil is just kind of a hilly country without being too mountainous. Buenos Aires is pretty flat, but as we said at the south, you have those grassy hills. So, for example, these ones, we can see them off this direction here, and they are pretty unique, and they look pretty tall. Don't get it twisted. These ones do get pretty tall looking, but again, just imagine me here. I'm seeing these mountains northeast of us. It's like, okay, where does that really make sense? Because it's rare to see northeast mountains up here, and even still, the climate's getting quite a lot different. Whereas we're in a grassland right now, so seeing these mountains, the only options would be like Cordoba, San Luis Hills, or the ones over here. Then, of course, you get south, and as soon as you cross the La Pampa border, things start to get quite hilly inland. It's generally speaking still pretty flat, but you will see hills most rounds at least as well. Tierra del Fuego, kind of hilly at the top and then mountainous at the bottom. And obviously roads like this are pretty distinct. I wonder when they're going to send the Google car here again. It's been a decade now, but this is how it looks. Yeah, and then often like you're going to be on the kind of borders here, and you're going to see like snowy mountains and this kind of vegetation and everything. So yeah, and also a good rule of thumb is that pretty much Santa Cruz and south is mostly just Gen 3 for now. They did some coverage in this in Gen 4, I think, yeah. So they have sent the Google cars down here, but for example, on the main road, I believe it's still just Gen 3. Oh no, it is actually updated now. So, let's see how far it went. Okay, so they've actually published quite a lot now. Well, maybe not all the way. So, but what I want to say is Santa Cruz is mostly just Gen 3, Tierra del Fuego is mostly just Gen 3, and then above that, you get a mix. Probably mostly Gen 4 around here. Okay. Oh, and then also another place to mention just before we jump into gameplay is San Carlos de Bariloche, known by Argentinians as Bariloche. This is a very touristy area. It's very green. You get very unique landscape here. You'd be tempted not to go Argentina on here, but instead Europe or something for sure. So just keep that in mind. It's very temperate, not tropical at all, but very green. Despite the fact that it's literally in Rio Negro province. In addition to that, Cordoba inside the hills gets very weird sometimes. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel quite right. Often looks maybe a bit American, or I don't know. What do you think here? Like, it's a unique landscape for sure. And it's also where you get that unique signage, but sometimes that unique signage is hard to find, so we'll just see if we get it in the game. Actually, that's interesting. We even got like a European style crossing sign there. So I'm not really sure what crossing signs they have in Buenos Aires, but maybe we can find one here. But it's definitely interesting to me. Yeah, they don't have any of those signs. So again, Cordoba I'm not exactly sure what it is, but just does its own thing a lot of the time. And so now let us play some Argentina here. And I will try to explain exactly how I'm getting close if I am. Otherwise, we'll try and learn together. Okay, so immediately a pretty south vibe here. We're going east. Now, do I know the road? Before I look at that, like, which has the provincial road on it, I would be thinking that this might be this road here. Although I thought this one might have been sunny coverage, actually. So I don't know. I thought this might be this road here. Can we see an angle that fits? Maybe like here or something like that? There's not many angles that actually fit here. What about the direction of the mountains? So we have west, small mountains, east, nothing. I was thinking it's this road here. But anyway, let's actually get into the explanation here. We have like a lot of low bushes. They're big though. They're big bushes. It does not remind me of Santa Cruz very much with how big these bushes are. In addition to that, I mean, it is Gen 4, so in 2022, so it's older coverage, so probably, or definitely not going to be down there with 2022 Gen 4. And yeah, these are Argentinian poles. In terms of getting Argentina here, it's super easy because of the vegetation and double yellow lines. Only other place this could really be, in my opinion, would be like South Africa, Australia, with double yellows. We know that's not possible. So let's have a look at the road number here. So 32. And I was on the 25. So let's see where... Am I wrong? It looks like it says 32 to me. So let's see where the actual 32 is. Well... Maybe it's like the 20. I can't actually read that. Is it possible that I'm very wrong here? Maybe. I feel that if I am wrong, it's probably just Mendoza or New Ken with the landscape. But yeah, I mean, I guess let's find out. Okay, it was Mendoza there or New Ken. The 22. Fair enough. Yeah, similar looking roads, I feel, but I should know the one I clicked on. Next one here, palm trees. Immediately noticing that, immediately pushing me this direction. Ooh, okay. So, yeah, so we got the Argentinian poles here. We got the Argentinian plate with the black dot. And one big thing which I forgot to mention actually, because we were going to look at like coverage extent. So let me actually get back to that quickly. So this is how Argentina's coverage looks. Obviously, Chubut, there's like, you basically never click in the middle of it because there's only one road. Same thing for like Santa Cruz. There's like a big open part here where you just never click. It's pretty filled in for the most part. Again, like up here, there's barely any coverage. You just surely try and remember what this road looks like. It's brand new coverage, so maybe a good one to remember because they probably won't drive there for a little while again. And yeah, that's basically all I want to say. But look how the angles go in Argentina. So you get a lot of north-south roads in La Pampa and like San Luis and southern Cordoba. You get a lot of this kind of angle southwest in Buenos Aires province. You get a lot of slightly southeast in Santa Fe. And then obviously things get a lot more bendy where there's mountains, but for the flat areas, it's good. Chaco has a lot of north-south and a lot of northeast. So yeah, just actually knowing where the north-south is alone is very good because it's mostly around here and around here. So yeah, I would just say that's a good one. Even like San Miguel has this kind of southwest angle because it's near the mountains. And Mendoza has this kind of southeast angle also because of the mountains. So yeah, I would definitely recommend learning that. So if we check the angle here, we're going slightly southeast, so could remind us maybe of like Santa Fe or something like that. That being said, I saw a meta which I barely ever get to use, but I believe actually is a real meta, and that is that you get these little like brown boxes on which some of these signs or these lights are built, and I thought that was a Corrientes meta. So, or actually no, a Formosa meta, Formosa City, if I remember correctly. Now, it looks like the angle is not good, so maybe that is actually wrong on this occasion. Let's have a look at the angle here. So, it's honestly worth doing that in Argentina just to check if you could be right or not. And yeah, I was going to go around Formosa City, but unless it was Resistencia. But yeah, neither of them have a good angle. So, I think instead, I might... I don't actually know where to go here, to be honest with you guys. I mean, the palms do stretch down past Resistencia, so maybe we're better off just in this area here. Need some water. I don't know, is there anything else to say here? No, and it's kind of confusing because of the palm trees on the water here, but I'm just going to go for this one. And okay, it was in Formosa. So yeah, I think that is a Formosa meta. The little things that they were built on. And as you can see, to be fair, the angle was like different on this stretch of the road compared to the rest of the road, I would say. So it did make the round dip more difficult, but those palm trees are north. Oh, next one here, we have tons of poplars. This immediately reminds me of around New Ken, which is probably like the, this city here, as well as the name of this province. But this city here, General Roca area, has just tons of poplars. They are a lot in Argentina in general. It's probably the country where you see the most of them, but just that city in general is super common for them. Now, we're going to check... This is a fairly main road. We're going to check the angle of it, and it's basically east-west, but slightly northwesterly, I would say. So I quite like, therefore, right here, but we can see the angle is not quite the same as the New Ken one. So maybe this direction more so. We can see that it bends around, so it's not going to be perfect here, probably, but yeah. I don't know. I still think, like, with the high density of poplars here, with, like, nothing else, but while it also doesn't feel, like, too Patagonian, that I really like around New Ken, so I'm just going to try it. Should be somewhere nearby, I think. We have slight west hills here, which maybe that's, like, a riverbank, so maybe we'd be, like, looking west at this river or something like that. I don't know. I'm just going to go for it. And yeah, by Argentinian standards, pretty good. It was just on the next river. I knew we'd be looking at some river because often rivers will just have like embankments. Like the banks will often be a little bit raised because of, I don't know, corrosion, not like erosion and that kind of thing. Okay, next one here. We're inside the mountains this time, immediately feeling more west because of the well, big mountains northwest of us there, so that's a great example of just checking the mountains. They are northwest of us, which means the mountains run northeast. So you just got to imagine something's being perpendicular. So if we look northwest, and again, like explaining with my hands, might be, let's actually just go for paint here. So if we look northwest at something and it appears flat against it, then yeah, that's the mountains there, right? They're going to be northeast. We'll see that when we hit guess here, but they should be roughly correspondent to that. Then I guess to our southeast, we also have some hills which are, I would say, running at the same angle. So southeast, so that means northeast. Yeah. So we're kind of between hills here. So I was thinking of La Rioja at the first because of the mountains like that. But if we also have them east, then we're going to have to adjust our guess based on that. The bigger mountains are definitely the west ones, which is also good to know. So then, at this point, I'm going to check the vegetation. Vegetation's pretty desert-like. You have to play a lot of Arge to get a vibe for exactly what that means. But definitely, I mean, the vibe of the climate to me feels a bit further north. We don't have many poplar trees. That being said, we do actually. Okay, maybe a bit further south. Maybe what about San Juan then? So San Juan, we could look northwest at mountains in San Juan to be sure. Maybe like here, but they're not that big, like what we see here. I feel. Okay, well, it is a suspicious number of poplar trees. I definitely don't think it's going to be like north of Catamarca here, but I can still see Catamarca. And the Northwest Mountains are pretty distant from us. We're not right up against them. Maybe something like this. That could actually make sense. Northwest Mountains, Southeast Mountains too, but they're a bit smaller. That tends to correspond with what I see here. I'm not sure. Like, I'm not really the best person to explain finding this stuff because I'm not the best at it, you know? I don't know. There's some good stuff. There's some stuff that fits. So I don't know. What do I think about? I think San Juan's pretty good, but I just don't think the mountains are big. I think the mountains are too big west of us. I would maybe try this. Yeah, I think I like this the best. I'm gonna go for that. And it was just Mendoza there. So what east hills do we look at? That's what I'm kind of confused about. Gonna have to go to terrain map and see exactly what was going on there. So we were just south of the city there. So turn that off. So there's Mendoza. So these mountains were quite a bit bigger than I thought, these ones here. Because yeah, I mean with the yeah, I guess you can see that pretty prominently. I guess they were just closer than I thought, so they appeared bigger. But yeah, these ones are still fairly sizable, and I would say that they are, I don't know what I'm trying to say. But you can see the mountains were northeast. These ones didn't really run northeast, actually, but yeah, that is at least good. What do I want to say? I forget. Moving on. Well, the poplars. The poplars were probably the bigger clue there that I should have gotten. This definitely feels a lot further south. We have a very wide POV here with no trees. The bushes are quite big though, so I don't love Santa Cruz here. I think I prefer Chubut. We have northeast hills, we have southeast hills, we have south hills, we have hills all directions. So to me, and this is a vibe thing from, you know, playing a bunch, but I was kind of thinking that we're more so like this direction or something like that. So I'm just gonna like zoom into somewhere that has hills every direction. I guess actually maybe indeed Santa Cruz. I mean, I think the 40 should always be paved, and we don't want to click here, as I said, so maybe I actually do want to go more southern than like this road or something. I don't know. Doesn't really feel like that far south. Maybe. I think these bushes are a bit like this bushes would be sus for that far south, I think. Which leaves me a bit confused. Maybe it is one of these roads out here. It felt more western with how hilly it is. I'm not sure, guys. I would hate to get around like this in a game. I don't even know if the 24 has coverage, but I might try it. Just because I can't think of anything better. I mean, the angle is nice here at least. I'll try this road. Makes some sense, maybe. Yeah, it was all the way up in Mendoza. That is definitely a tough Mendoza, especially because I would expect maybe some more redder soil there. It was only slightly red. With the mountains every side, I think it's a very tough round. I think this bush was suspiciously big, even for Chubut, so... But you do have to get a feeling for these things. Yeah, actually we had these bushes too, which I hadn't seen. But still, I don't think I'll go Mendoza there. That being said, did we not see a mountain with snow on it here? Maybe we did? No, that's not snow. Maybe we didn't. Okay, well then, I feel like this is a very difficult round. Now, if you look west, we can actually see bigger mountains even in the background, so... Not that that's extremely helpful, because... Oh, we do see snow-capped mountains. I wasn't hallucinating. Although I don't think I fully clocked these, and they still could be clouds, but I think they are actually snow-capped mountains, these. Which would make sense, because we're looking at the, like, kind of biggest mountains here. So... Gettable, but very tough. And that is a sub 10,000 score, which is obviously not ideal. Okay, next one here. Immediately, like, bigger vegetation. Feels much further north, obviously. Not going to go, like, south of Rio Negro here. And let's check the road angle on a road like this. I mean, on a round like this, pretty essential stuff. I would maybe even be thinking of, like, San Luis here. The road's definitely slightly pink. I could also see, like, La Rioja has a lot of kind of forest like this with, like, kind of low trees. And the big bushes. So I'm kind of between, like, those ones. San Juan, pretty possible. Do we have anything here? Not really. So, obviously, next you look for the elevation. We don't see any mountains here, which is definitely interesting. I would have expected maybe to see something. Although we are on, like, a slope, which is meaning that we are probably a bit further west, I still think. So, yeah, flat road out this direction, maybe I would actually just try and line it up here. So, let's see here. What about flat La Rioja roads? Not many with this exact angle, but this one looks pretty good. Do we have a railway? It looks like we may. It's just an electricity pole, I think. So I don't think we have a railway south of us, but it's not out of the question that we would. Yeah, and it seems like a very straight road, so... I mean, is this the right angle? I always suck at this, but that is actually very nearly the right angle. There are some subtle changes in this road's angle. Just trying to line it up here. Ooh, it really is so similar. But I don't think it's this road, actually. Maybe on this side, actually. This actually might look better. Ooh, it's, again, so very close. I might try that. I might try on the Cordoba side here of La Rioja. And it was a similar latitude there, so finally a good guess. Relatively speaking. Next one here. Bushes, again. Any pole tops? This is an interesting pole top. I thought that might have been like a Corrientes pole top, but the landscape does not feel correct here for that. So we have to vibe off vegetation here, as you often have to do in Arge. Lots of trees, no poplars that I can see, so I don't feel too far south here. No elevation either. Big tall grass just kind of feels like plains kind of area, right? And we're going this angle here. So SDE came to mind here. We have a lot of similar angles around SDE cities, so I quite like that. But I could definitely see Cordoba. I think, like, SDE is quite what would you say? Quite, yeah, it definitely has agriculture, but it has a lot less corn in most parts. We do see some corn maybe here. I don't know. You do see corn in SE as well. I don't know. It's just the vibe of like a lot of just like trees, but low trees. Doesn't really feel like the tree plantations out here or anything like. But it's less agricultural for sure. I feel good about the guess, but I really can't describe why in much more detail. Yeah, I mean, also the road angle here helped a lot, but yeah, just outskirts of the city. Wait, did I actually? No, we're good. Maybe I actually screwed up the angle of the road a bit, but it still worked. Just based on vibes. Okay. Pines. Obviously, you see those a lot in southern Brazil, so kind of transposing that latitude there. This time we do have like kind of what I would describe as tree clumps here and there. Yeah, all white road lines, as we said. You will see those when there's no solid line. Also, a single solid yellow line. I don't think I've ever seen that in Uruguay, but you do occasionally see it in Argentina on a corner or just for some random reason. And so you have to bear that in mind. Like, obviously, single yellow line will be much more of like a Peru thing, much more of a Mexico, Colombia, Ecuador thing, but you will see this occasionally in Arge. Okay, so I'm definitely thinking of these two based on like landscape here. Maybe this one too. Maybe even Buenos Aires. I could see that. We do have the wire here, which is I can't really remember how to use it, but yeah. Okay, we're going southwest, like southwest basically. There's gonna be a bunch of angles that fit here in every state. What year is the coverage from? 2022. There's a lot of older Gen 4 coverage in Entre Rios, which is kind of useful. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I would even actually be tempted by Buenos Aires more now, just based on like a bunch of different correlating factors. The pines almost feel coastal, but I don't know. Do we have any hills or anything? No. Arge a struggle. This could be very wrong, but I'm gonna go outside of Buenos Aires here. And it was coastal BA. Down on this road. Okay, fair enough. Decent guess, but we got the state or province streak, but not much else there. This is a very similar vibe to the last SDE round, so I'm immediately kind of sussing out whether we could be there again with the kind of same texture and size of trees. Also very sandy here, which I like. Is also a north meta, of course. It definitely looks similar, so let's see if we have the same road angle, and it looks like we do. So again, you just kind of get used to some of these road angles. Not that I'm really the person who's that good at using them, but yeah. Okay, and actually, yeah, you do get this angle a lot in Formosa, and actually, we said the sandy soil is even more common in Formosa and Formosa and gosh damn it, Chaco. Yeah, I mean, I would have maybe expected to see. Oh, you don't always see a palm, but maybe a cactus or a palm or anything like that here. Not so much. So difficult, but gettable, I would say. Yeah. Next one here. Okay, immediately, very southern vibes, and I'll tell you why. We're Gen 3. We have like spammed fences, which I feel like is, I don't know, I don't want to put false ideas into you guys' heads, but pretty southern. Something you see a lot in the south anyway. We have, now I'm doubting myself how I'm going to explain this. We have South Mountains, which is very interesting. We have like the blue painted back of the sun. I feel like that's very common in Tierra del Fuego. So now I'm trying to work out whether we can be there. Is that the ocean or is that hills? It almost looks like the ocean, you know. No, I think it's a hill range. So we're on a main road that's going southwest. Could we be here? No, there's no angle. So, or maybe here actually. Ooh. Southwest, it bends south. Could we be right here? That I don't really think so either, but with the East Ridge, I feel like this is actually a bona fide East Ridge. We're definitely southern is what I'm trying to say here. We do have a random tree. It's just so little going on. everything looks like it's fighting for survival. This kind of cross on the back with the blue paint, I've seen like Deep South before quite a lot. I don't know how to describe this one any better than that. I think that that bend is not sharp enough. So something down this south part. I don't, guys, I'm fumbling. If we were here, like I thought we might be, the West Hills don't really appear to be there. So I think it's all together too flat down there. I'm gonna go here instead. Yeah, nice. That was a much better game, 17k. Indeed, we got the province 3 out of 5 times. But that was just so barren, cold looking. It's very commonly overcast down here. The hills were small. I don't know. That's the vibe on around like that. Next one here immediately strikes me as hui hui. So why? Big blue open sky. You get few clouds here. I think it's because the other side of the Andes basically at this point. Like there's only smaller hills this side. The Andes are quite kind of small at this stage, I guess. Well, not small, but you know, smaller. But anyway, like we're west of the Andes. Bushes, like salt bushes, but they don't look like the Patagonian style, I would say. Wooden poles, very common up there. Dirt road, Gen 4. Decently sized hills either side of us. East seems to be the bigger ones, but that just like serves to like confirm, to be honest, because look, we have like these kind of smaller shaped hills here. So road angle is like this. Doesn't really feel like a yellow road, to be fair. I mean, so maybe something like this instead. The angles, though, perhaps not exactly the right one. Still don't mind the 11 there, something like that. Angle of the mountains. Northwest, looks like they're pretty much, yeah, seems like they're going pretty much northeast, so there's definitely some angles up here that work. Could even be a bit further south down over these borders, but I mean, the other options, there are like still roads that look like this down here, but I just think it looks like up here. Yeah. Okay, next one here, we got the blue on white chevrons, so we know we're going to be in Cordoba province here. I'm pretty sure they don't exist outside of it, but I guess we'll find out maybe. So we're on a divided highway here. We're on a turn, so we can't really be too confident with the angle here, but let's look for mountains, right? We have a lot of eucalyptus here. That is very interesting. Not really seen that too often, but yeah, there's a lot of eucalyptus trees. Without the chevrons, I don't know if I would be going Cordoba here, to be honest. But yeah, it's very flat as well. I'm kind of surprised that we can't see any mountains. Like, I would have thought we might be on the 36 here, but we have a pretty clear vision west with no even hills. And we have a palm tree as well. Could these be actually fake, these chevrons? Maybe. I mean, we do get those palms, like, around here. We already established that, so maybe it's just north of the city. I don't know what's going on here. Seems like the road just, it bends quite a lot here, and there's a lot of traffic, so I suppose I would just think we're near Cordoba itself. I don't know. That's sus. A bendy, divided road with these chevrons. Should just be. I'm going to give it a go. Wow. Entre Rios. Okay. Did not expect us to see this meta once with no success to it. But what I will say is you guys saw that I was feeling sus about this round because we have so many clumps of grown trees here. It's a very Entre Rios landscape, not to mention the lack of hills. So yeah, I hope in a tournament I would not go wrong there. So yeah, I guess these are not 100% then. Though I feel like if I ever have seen those outside of Cordoba, it's extremely rare. Yeah, this divided highway is also very bendy. This one here, so that just makes so much more sense. Okay, red road. Striped car, and we're going perfectly east-west. Oh my gosh. This feels to me like a textbook La Pampa. with the red road, with the is this new coverage 2023? That's kind of interesting though. I guess it could be wrong. But the fact that we're going perfectly north or east west is just like so La Pampa. I don't know. Quite a lot of traffic. I feel like the trees are big and healthy looking. It's actually eucalyptus again. It does remind me maybe it feels more towards Buenos Aires, but with the east-west angle, you just can't go there really. I would go like all the way north in La Pampa here, I think. And can we get anything else here? I'm just gonna send it. See if my meta works. And it was more towards where we were, but yeah. That's an undisputable red road at least. And it definitely works, that meta. Okay, next one here, again a red road. This time I think it's going to be more like the San Luis style. We'll see the angle of the road is, yeah, the angle of the road is not north-south this time. So, yeah, so it's slightly red with like a lot of white dots in it. It feels very San Luis. Flat. Got a kilometer marker here. More of a bendy road that's not on north-south angle. We do have some clumps of trees here. And a lot of eucalyptus, so it is possible to be something else like Entre Rios here, or just Buenos Aires province. I suppose it's not the most typical San Luis ever. Quite agricultural. I don't know, guys. How much would I trust these tree clumps is the question. And very slight hills as well. I don't know, maybe it actually does feel more towards Uruguay here. I think if I was playing in a tournament, I might just be tempted to hedge Buenos Aires. It is possible to see red roads in Buenos Aires, and I don't know, the white dots are the main thing that make me want to stay here. But I'm actually going to say it's not enough to make me stay, so I'm actually going to hedge it like this in Buenos Aires. Yeah, okay, well, it's just in La Pampa. It did look very La Pampa, but we had the wrong road angle, but you can see there are obviously exceptions. So, I mean, still a good guess, all things considered, I would say. We would have been probably further away in San Luis or similar distance, so. But yeah, Red Road. I mean, it showed Red Road as a San Luis thing, but as you can see, we've seen it twice in La Pampa so far. Okay, there's big cactus here. Okay, this immediately, with like the tropical vibe, how much cactus we've got going on, this low tropical vegetation, immediately reminds me of like Formosa, but we're going east-west, so also have to consider Chaco with the east-west angle here. Is this new coverage? 24, I imagine, yeah. Okay, that's an interesting detail then. Where do we actually want to go? Can we see anything up here that makes sense? Perfectly east-west? Like, is this even perfectly east-west? I think it's almost is, but at some point you got to play the numbers game, I think. I think, like, this is just more of a Chaco angle. This, like, a lot of them are white roads, but a lot of north-south angle in Chaco here. Which I'm just a bit worried about if we wanted to try anywhere else. What about out here? Yeah, I don't know. There's just not that many angles. I'm going to go for Chaco here. And it was even Santiago del Estero, which has a few north-south angles here. Not many. But that does make sense. Definitely. Not a bad game there. Although I think the Entre Rios was a bit of a bait round, to be sure. Okay, and let's speed through one more here. So, bigger vegetation, so it should be a bit further north in Patagonia, but no real trees. But yeah, this vegetation's quite big, and I'm not going to make the same mistake I did on the one where we went, like, Chubut on Mendoza. So I'm going to go in Rio Negro this time, I think. I think that makes some sense. Maybe even hedging up towards Mendoza here, just because the bushes are so big. So I'll try this. Yeah, it was actually La Pampa there. Nice. Obviously not an east-west angle there. It was. Okay, never mind. I should have actually checked that, because I may have been able to get closer there, because out west here, the angle kind of falls apart. So we could have actually probably got very close there, but yeah. Next one here, this kind of vegetation that I would associate with like this kind of area with the kind of almost Australian desert kind of feel to it. And at that point, it's a road angle thing, and we're looking, and it's pretty flat, right? We don't see anything. If we look west for mountains, we only see small hills. Clearly not quite as big as you might expect normally here. So then I'm just angling it up here. This kind of thing here, in Catamarca, border province works, but that would be an SDE. You know, this doesn't look like SDE to me. What about this? That looks quite nice. Yeah. Honestly, there are not that many roads. And with a nice quality road like that, you know you're probably going to be on a yellow road, so yeah. Okay, off-road here. Lush. It's quite lush. Smaller trees. I would definitely be looking for West Mountains here. So that's west there. We have none. Okay, good to know. We again have the block, which I want to try Formosa on, honestly. But, I mean, it's a very sandy, which does fit. I think without the block, I think... no, these trees feel wrong. These trees feel more cold climate to me. Okay, here's the thing. Let's check the angle. So here's the thing. My default... Ooh. See, angle is not really that good for Formosa. I mean, obviously last time I said that and it was just a random small angle. But I wanted to go Santa Fe. It's also not the Santa Fe angle, to be fair. I don't know. It's new coverage too. Well, yeah. I think the block... I'm not convinced by the block on this occasion, though I'll be interested to see if it could be correct. I would go based on landscape. Maybe it's just the Santa... Maybe it's actually just SDE here with this angle. I'll try SDE. And it was just Cordoba. Okay, not the typical Cordoba angle. So the angle guessing has some problems, but that block was clearly not a Formosan one. Yeah. Difficult. Okay. Next one. Sawdust car. Click here and go next. And finally, ooh, this is a very cool landscape, bunch of like interesting looking trees. Is that a monkey puzzle there? Perchance. Yeah, I think we got monkey puzzles here. And as I said, we look for Temuco, locate it, go across the border, click for the 5K. And that was an 18.9, so definitely redeemed ourselves a bit there, although round 3 was pretty difficult, I would say. I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know which country is coming next. And I would say thank you for watching all the way to the end. I'll see you guys next time, and goodbye.